It started with an idea. No, it was more than that. It was a dream. The technology was here. We asked whether we could, not whether we should, but you know what? We did it anyway. It's me, Tyler, Knowledge Hub, Plush Tyler of Knowledge Hub, in your hands, limited time only, act now. Go to the Makeship link in the description if you want to get your very own Tiny Tyler plush thing. What a sexy man. It's a sneaky little bitch. Time is running out. I will fucking end this. Microsoft owns Crash and Spyro. PlayStation has Bungie. The future year of 2022 is just filled with surprises, ain't it? Sony paid $3.6 billion to get all of this. That's more than Yahoo paid for Community's final season. To be honest, I didn't really expect a major PlayStation acquisition anytime soon, because if that were the case, I would have just included it in my last video. But whatever. Now I know what this looks like. Sony gets scared about the whole Microsoft buying up everything thing, and then they just jump on Bungie. They just eat them up. But no, this isn't a response to all that, or even this acquisition that happened that I never mentioned, because who cares? These deals take a lot longer to put together than 2 weeks. This ain't a spur-of-the-moment sort of thing. But it is, however, another shot fired in the acquisition war. Normally, I wouldn't talk about it. Or maybe I would. Who knows how low my standards will fall. But this particular purchase, it's a bit weird. Now, for the uninformed, Bungie's, they're a big deal. Or they were, depending on who you ask. They made Oni and Myth, got bought by Microsoft, made a few Halos, left Microsoft, partnered with Activision, made a Destiny, 2 Destinies in fact, and went independent again. I could also detail all the various controversies this developer has been involved in, but I won't. All you really need to know is this. After Bungie left Activision, they started making a lot of bad moves. They started sunsetting paid DLC, charging users for basic gameplay functions. Since 2019, player counts have fallen steadily. I don't know if this led to more financial troubles that inspired Bungie to sell, but whatever. With this purchase, Sony gets its largest studio yet, and it gets Destiny, and I think Marathon. Destiny 2 will still be supported for a good few years, with at least 2 upcoming DLCs. The last of these will likely release in 2024, and after that, I'll get to that. The big question I had was, why did Sony buy Bungie? Going through the statements provided, we get a few vague comments and some less vague comments. By far, the least exciting of all this is Bungie's newfound love for multimedia entertainment. TV shows, movies, Destiny on the big screen. I don't really have a ton of faith in Sony Pictures unless it's the Spider-Verse or Cobra Kai. So, you know, good luck with all that. Now, of course, Bungie, they got stuff they're working on. It's a new game. Given trademark filings and job listings, it appears this new title is called Matter. Sure, that could just be a codename, but it also has this fancy custom artwork attached. So, I don't know. Gameplay-wise, it seems like it's going to be pretty close to Destiny, but rather than science fantasy with laser weapons and guns and such, it seems this will be more whimsical fantasy adventure. Now, the weird part about all of this is that even with Sony paying big buckaroos for Bungie, this title won't be PlayStation exclusive. In fact, it's coming to the Xbox. Keep in mind this isn't because of contractual agreements either, because this game isn't likely coming out until 2025. Of course, when it comes to live service games, a large player base means more users and more monies. But this isn't just about getting revenue from a game that isn't even announced yet. Instead, it seems to be part of some larger initiative in the PlayStation brand. Jim Ryan has had some interesting statements in regards to this particular acquisition. If you don't know, he's the CEO of PlayStation. There he is. So what he's been saying is that PlayStation is going deeper into multi-platform territory. In fact, the Bungie acquisition seems to be more about its talent, the employees, and proprietary tools for managing cross-platform development and online games. In short, making titles that aren't just on PlayStation. We already know that Sony's been doing this with PC. A few PS4 titles have released on Steam years after their console launch, but that gap is shrinking. I don't know if any of you saw my Whimzu video about the Nvidia game leak, but there was a lot of PlayStation Studios titles in that mix. Games like Returnal and Horizon Forbidden West, PS5 titles coming to PC, and it might be by the end of this year. At the same time, Sony has already acquired a studio for the sole purpose of porting PlayStation games to PC. See, back in October 2021, Jim Ryan discussed how he wanted the PlayStation brand to encompass hundreds of millions of users, something that he said was not feasible with the current console model. He wanted these exclusives to sell more than 10 or 20 million units, something that wouldn't be possible when people have to pay $500, $400 to get into the ecosystem. Yes, this is about the same exact thing we've seen Phil Spencer talk about. You might remember in my video from several days ago, I talked about how Microsoft had Sony by the balls. Squeezing, throbbing, any other verb you desire. There was a few possibilities I discussed that the future could be. One where Sony allowed Xbox Game Pass on PS5, one where cloud streaming between platforms was an option, and the last one where Microsoft just buys up everything. Now we don't know how all this is gonna go, but we do know that Sony's plan is slightly more clear. While Game Pass on PS5 and cloud streaming exclusive titles between boxes still seems unlikely, Sony is going to emulate Microsoft's strategy. Which is ironic because Microsoft was kind of emulating Sony's strategy. It's weird. Don't worry about it. Given the remarks from Jim Ryan, it seems the next big step for the PlayStation brand is this expansion outside the core console. Smartphones, smart TVs, smart watches, smart fridges, anything and everything running PlayStation. Now, if that is Sony's grand plan, then something like the Activision acquisition isn't necessarily going to destroy PlayStation in the long run, because both platforms sort of want the same thing. Why squabble over 20 million users when you could potentially get hundreds of millions? Yes, I'm talking about cloud streaming. Most people don't just get Netflix or Hulu, they probably get both. And this seems to be what these companies are expecting. Rather than compete for scraps, both of them can build the market up, get more users, and create something much more profitable than they could just by relying on these boxes. Companies want growth above all else. However, with the whole Bungie acquisition, this is kind of weird. Explicitly producing titles for a competing console is different than allowing them to stream the game in. And this is why, if I had to take a guess, I think Sony wants to begin publishing more titles on competing consoles. No, I'm not talking about God of War or Spider-Man on Xbox, but maybe it'll be stuff they don't actually own yet. Jim Ryan discusses how this isn't the end of Sony's acquisitions. Now, who this could be really is anybody's guess, given that traditionally, every past acquisition Sony has made has been for individual studios. My bets were on Ember Lab, Lucid Games, or Impulse Gear. But a lot of people seem to be expecting a big publisher, Square Enix, Capcom, Konami. I'm not gonna rule any of these big names out. After all, they are relatively inexpensive considering the IPs they hold. Sony probably has enough money to buy them, but wait and see. On February 2nd, Sony had an earnings call, and it was revealed that there are 10 planned live service games before 2026. That's bold. So I expect most future acquisitions will be for teams that provide these live service titles. Considering everything we know now, it's safe to assume some of these titles will be multi-platform. The big old Bungie acquisition was announced just before this earnings call, and I expect the news to keep pouring out over the next few months. While Sony buying Bungie isn't the biggest news in the world, everything else surrounding it is quite telling. It's a good look at where the industry is heading. It could be good, it could be bad, I don't know. The acquisition war is just getting started, but there is one thing I can tell you for certain. The best kind of purchase is one that comes from the heart. That's right, Tyler's here again. It was a plush ad, the whole thing, this video, it was an ad for the plush.